Hi booktube, it's Gina. Happy Thursday. How are you? I'm doing really great. I'm off work this week, enjoying some personal time. We are having a beautiful sunny day today. So after I talk to you, I'm going to head out and go run some errands, maybe hit a bookstore, just putter around and enjoy being outside in the sunshine. It's still a little chilly, but it's sunny and beautiful. And I wanted to talk to you today about my top 10 books that I read in 2023. Now, I know the year's not quite over yet. I doubt very highly, though, that in the next, week and a half that I will read anything that's going to make the list. If for some reason I do, I will be sure to update you. But I just thought it would be fun. I've been watching everyone else's top 10, worst 10 wrap-ups of the year and just really enjoying them. So I wanted to do the same thing and let you know what I just absolutely loved reading this year. Now, it is an interesting combination. I've got 2 fantasy books, 2 classics, 1 literary fiction, and 5 of what I call my ladies, 5 of the mid-century modern ladies, D.E. Stevenson, Barbara Pym, etc. And of course, I will tell you all of those books. I'm not including any rereads, so this is just books that I read for the first time. And what else? I think that's it for the intro. So I've got 5 of them I actually own in a physical copy, and 5 of them I do not own. So if I get energetic, I'll post a picture of the cover, but you know me, I'm a little bit lazy. So if I don't post a picture, I will of course be sure to list them down below so you at least have the name and the author. So let's jump right in. I'm going to start with the 5 that I do not own, and I will do the 5 that I own here afterwards. So the first one, and these are not in any particular order of like least favorite to most favorite, they're just random. The first one is Radiance by Grace Draven. This is a really fun fantasy novel. It is the first in a series. And I have to say, I read the 3 that are available. I think she's continuing to write it. Oh, I forgot to say, it's written by Grace Draven. I think the series is going to continue. So I read the 3 that were out. This first one was my favorite. The second and third tapered off a little bit, but Radiance by Grace Draven. So this is a fantasy romance that features 1 human and 1 non-human who are they've got an arranged marriage, but because they are of different species, they find each other repulsive. And if you see the cover, you will clearly see that neither of the characters is repulsive in any way. Even the non-human, who's supposed to be repulsive to the human, is quite attractive, but whatever, we're gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and assume that both characters find each other repulsive. And they do get married. This happens very early on, and what I love about it is they develop a really wonderful relationship and friendship. And there's, of course, some, political intrigue that happens. And I just really enjoyed it. A very, very fun series. Is a little bit graphic sometimes in the romance department. So if that bothers you, I would skip it. But it's a really fun series. Next is 9 Coaches Waiting by Mary Stewart. I actually have another Mary Stewart that I will share with you, but I just went off on a Mary Stewart kick this year. I love her writing. I love her. And you know what? Somebody commented that I keep looking up in my videos, and I do that for no apparent reason. I'm going to try to stop doing that. It is very annoying, isn't it? Nine Coaches Waiting by Mary Stewart, a suspenseful romance. One of the things I love so much about Mary Stewart is that she never, even though her books are suspenseful, I never feel like worried that it's going to have a bad ending. They always have a very satisfying ending, which I really enjoy. So Nine Coaches Waiting is the first Mary Stewart on this list. Next is Wild Strawberries by Angela Thirkell. Angela Thirkell is another author that I really discovered this year and fell in love with. This is the second in a series, in the High Rising series, which is set in the fictional town or area of Barchester, or is it Barsetshire? I forget. It's the same area that the Anthony Trollope series is set in, but of course it's written by Angela Thirkell, and is a really fun romance story. I really enjoyed it. Going to continue reading more out of this High Rising series for sure. Next is The Belton Estate by Anthony Trollope. So this is one of the classics that I read this year. The Belton Estate is also a romance. I think I did have a fairly high percentage of romance books on my list this year, which was a lot of fun. I love Anthony Trollope. He's one of my favorite classic authors, and The Belton Estate did not disappoint. It was really fun, very romance-y book, and I really loved it. Next is Green Money by D.E. Stevenson. So D.E. Stevenson is one of my favorite authors. She was writing in the mid to late 20th century. Very cozy. Green Money, I wouldn't say is cozy. It is about a young woman who is getting ready to come into an inheritance. The executor of her estate, who has been managing it, hires somebody else to help him out, and then he promptly dies. And it's a romance, but it's not a romance in the typical sense. That it's not the two main characters necessarily that have the romance, but a really, really fun D.E. Stevenson book. Let's see, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the 5 that I do not own physical copies of. So the next 5 are 5 that I do own. And the first I will share is, this is the first Mary Stewart book that I read. This is Madam, Will You Talk? And this is the book that really started this fun Mary Stewart journey for me. I'm just loving her style. And look at that cover. Isn't that gorgeous? I've got a few of these vintage hardbacks in this. Let's see. This is a book club edition, which are not my absolute favorites, the book club editions, but I do love them. I don't know who originally published this, but there's a beautiful picture of Mary Stewart on the back. Next is another classic. So this is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I loved this book. Look at this cover. This is an old vintage paperback. I read this on my Kindle. I did not read this edition, but it's got the scene where they meet, where Rochester is on his horse on the cover, and I loved this book. This is a book that I cannot believe I had not read until this year. It's been in my consciousness. I've seen adaptations, miniseries over the years, but I had never read it, and I'm so glad that I did. I absolutely loved it. Next is my second fantasy book. This is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is a little bit hit or miss for me. I loved his Mistborn series, the first one, not the Wax and Wayne one, and I loved this. I didn't love the Oathbringer series, the Stormlight as much, and actually I loved the first one, but then I stopped reading it after Oathbringer. Ooh, didn't like that one at all. But I loved Elantris. It's a standalone fantasy about Elantris is a sort of a walled city near a regular city where the gods live, and it turns into the gods fall from grace in some way, and they never can die, but they live this horrible existence in Elantris. And it's wonderful. It's so creative and interesting. I just loved this book. This is such a fun read. Really quick, very easy, but wonderful. Next is an author that I love. It is Barbara Pym. This is An Unsuitable Attachment. Look at this edition. I'm trying to buy these beautiful vintage covers as I find them. This was the last book that she wrote when she was first writing before she took her 15-year hiatus, and then was sort of rediscovered when she wrote A Quartet in Autumn. And I hadn't read this, and I absolutely loved it. This one was this was first published in 1982, so it was published late, but it was written earlier on in her career, and then it was published when she was sort of rediscovered and people were more interested in her work. And I've got a bunch of these. I'll show them all to you at some point, but they've all got this sort of interesting graphic cover on them, and I loved this book. And then lastly, and this might actually be my favorite book of the year, is The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. And I'm classifying this as literary fiction. It's historical fiction. It was set in World War II, about characters' lives, their struggles, their romance. And what is so interesting about this book is that it goes backwards. It starts out in the present time of World War II, leaves that chapter off on a few cliffhangers, and then goes back in time. It never comes back to the current time. So it's really interesting how she wraps everything up without coming back into the present. It's just genius. I absolutely loved it. I'm a big Sarah Waters fan. I only have one book of hers left to read, which makes me so sad. But I loved this book. Definitely recommend if you like historical fiction, especially World War II. Definitely not cozy, but fantastic. All right, so that is my top 10 books so far for 2023. I don't think I'll have any to add to this list, but I had such a fun, satisfying reading year this year. I just really enjoyed the year. What's been your favorite books of the year? What have you been loving? Are you ready for the year to end? I'm not quite ready for the year to be over, but I'm looking forward to 2024. And yeah, I will talk to you later. Bye.